Close your eyes and try to remember what you did exactly 1 week ago. Not the big stuff, the small stuff. What you ate for breakfast, what you were wearing, the first thing someone said to you. You can't. Almost none of it is there, and that probably feels like a flaw, like your brain is leaking, losing things it should have kept. But what if it didn't leak? What if you remembered everything? Every face, every conversation, every meal, every dull Tuesday in perfect, permanent detail for the rest of your life. It sounds like a superpower. It is closer to a curse. And the strangest part is that a handful of people on Earth are actually living it right now. Let's start with them because they're real. There's a rare condition with a long name, highly superior autobiographical memory. The people who have it can be given a random date from decades ago and instantly tell you what day of the week it was, what they did, what the weather was like, what was in the news, not by studying. They just remember. Their past doesn't fade, it stays. One of the most famous cases is a woman often referred to by the initials AJ, studied by the neuroscientist James McGaugh. She could recall the events of almost every day of her life since her teens. And you might think that sounds wonderful, but listen to how she described it. She called her memory nonstop, exhausting and uncontrollable. She said it ran like a movie that never paused, dragging her back through her own past whether she wanted it or not. That's the first clue that forgetting isn't a bug. It might be one of the most important things your brain does for you. To see why, you have to understand what memory is actually for. It feels like a recording device, like its job is to store the past as accurately as possible. But that's not what it evolved to do. Your memory's real job is not to remember the past, it's to help you survive the future. And to do that, it has to be ruthless. Out of the millions of details that hit your senses every single day, the overwhelming majority are useless. The exact pattern of cars in a parking lot, the precise wording of a stranger's small talk, the 1,000th time you walk down your own hallway. Keeping all of that would not make you wiser. It would bury the few things that actually matter under a mountain of noise. So your brain forgets on purpose. Forgetting is not failure. Forgetting is filtering. It's how your mind clears away the irrelevant so that the important can rise to the surface. The researcher who studies this, like the psychologist behind what's sometimes called adaptive forgetting, argue that a healthy memory is one that lets go of the right things so you can generalize, so you can see patterns instead of drowning in specifics. Think about what that means. The ability to learn a lesson instead of just hoarding examples depends on forgetting the examples. You don't remember every individual dog you've ever seen. You forgot them, and what's left is a concept dog. Forgetting is what turns a million experiences into actual understanding. Now take that away. Imagine the filter switched off. This is where the fantasy turns dark. If you couldn't forget, every embarrassing thing you've ever done would stay at full, stinging intensity forever. The grief of every loss would never soften, because softening is just a kind of merciful forgetting. Every insult, every failure, every painful goodbye would remain as sharp as the day it happened. Time heals, we say, but time only heals because memory fades. Remove the fading, and the wounds never close. People with that rare condition describe exactly this. Old arguments resurface with full emotional force, years later, as if they just happened. They can't let things go, not because they won't, but because the brain physically won't dim the signal. Imagine never being able to move past your worst day. Now imagine that for every worst day you've ever had, all at once, for life. And it gets stranger because a perfect memory wouldn't just hurt. It would make you slower and dumber in the moment. Here's the part most people never consider. To think clearly, to make a decision, to walk into a room and act, your brain has to instantly ignore almost everything. If every object you looked at dragged up every memory you'd ever formed about objects like it, you'd freeze. You'd be paralyzed by relevance. A mind that holds on to everything can't prioritize anything, because to prioritize is to push the unimportant out of view. The forgetting is what lets you focus. It's what lets you be here now instead of buried under then. There's even a darker possibility. Some researchers suspect that the inability to let go of memories, to file the past away as finished, may be part of what happens in conditions like PTSD, where a memory refuses to fade and keeps firing as if the danger is still present. In that light, forgetting starts to look less like a weakness and more like a form of healing the brain does quietly every single night while you sleep. So put it all together. A perfect total memory would mean no emotional healing, no ability to generalize or learn lessons, no focus, and a past that never, ever lets you rest. The superpower turns out to be a prison with no exits, where every door you've ever walked through stays open behind you forever. which flips the whole question on its head. The forgetting you've been quietly resenting, the misplaced names, the blurred weeks, the fact that you can't recall last Tuesday, that isn't your brain failing. That is your brain protecting you. It is editing your life down to what matters, dissolving the pain that needs to dissolve, and clearing space so you can keep moving forward instead of being trapped in the museum of everything that ever happened to you. A perfect memory sounds like a gift because we only imagine keeping the good parts. But memory doesn't work like that. It's all or nothing. And a mind that can't forget anything is a mind that can never be free of anything. So the next time a memory slips away and you feel that little flicker of frustration, you might pause and feel something else instead. Something closer to gratitude. Because forgetting is not the enemy of a good life. It's one of its quiet, invisible conditions. You were never supposed to remember everything. You were built to keep what matters, release what doesn't, and walk forward a little lighter. That isn't a broken memory. That's a merciful one.